Hi once again, and thanks for joining me, John Glenn Hughes, and this, the latest video in my series that I'm posting on YouTube in support of my latest book, which is in fact my first fictional novel. This is going to be the penultimate video in the series, and this is part 9. It's going to be about the supernatural and the supernatural elements that are an underlying theme throughout the book, and I'm also going to discuss how the supernatural can infuse what's perceived as normal daily life. Okay, so first of all, I often forget in these videos that I'm supposed to be plugging my book, so once more, there it is. An epic supernatural adventure story set in the early to mid 17th century. There's also an underlying theme throughout of love. There is a love story that is prevalent throughout. And this is one of the prime movers which leads the main character, Jonathan Palmer, to endure the difficulties that he has to endure. It's the love that transcends death itself. The book features such things as ghosts, spectral apparitions, hauntings, psychics, clairvoyance, a sea beast, mermaids, witch doctors, cannibals, etc. So if you like your horror fantasy, I think this is a book that would appeal to you. Also in the book, there are repeating themes of spiritualism and astrology and magic, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I haven't posted the video for a couple of weeks, and the reason for that is I've actually been in a bit of a pickle. I've been unsure as to how much to disclose in this video, but I guess I'll just go with it spontaneously and see what happens. I personally think it's reasonable to say that such matters as the supernatural are considered taboo as regards when they're measured against societal norms. In my experience, it's one of these things where many people experience supernatural events, and that is, when I say supernatural, I guess I would determine that as events that are beyond all rational explanation. Therefore, when people discuss openly the spiritual truths, the spiritual things, the supernatural events that they might have experienced, they are often ridiculed. But what I would say at this point is, I myself have had many supernatural experiences. At the end of the video, I'm actually going to discuss what normal is and how, in actual fact, as it turns out, the normality, the subjective normality which we all experience on a day-to-day basis in the cold light of day is actually not what it appears to be. So, back to the book. First of all, I'm going to discuss astrological content. For the keen-eyed person who has perhaps got an interest in astrology, it's revealed at an early stage in the book that the main character, Jonathan Palmer, is a Virgo. He is a Virgo male. Further on in the book, there are a few little Easter eggs, I guess you would call, and these further reveal that he is not only a Virgo male, but he has a Capricorn ascendant and an Aquarian moon in his chart. These all point towards a greater understanding of why he is the way he is. Other astrological content, it's also revealed that Palmer's wife, Elisa, who is a talented psychic herself, she is a Pisces, and his son, Oscar, is a Cancerian. This is relevant because in the chapter entitled The Children of the Sea, Palmer is haunted in his quietude and during his sleep by Elisa and Oscar, arisen from the depths, wearing shrouds with seaweed matted hair and they torment and haunt him, and they condemn him by saying, because of you, we were condemned to the ocean, we drowned. Because of you, we're children of the sea, our souls now belong to the ocean. As it happens, what is actually occurring there is the sea beast, which is a highly psychic and sensitive, esoteric superconductor, taps into Palmer's psyche and taps into a living memory that Palmer has, where he revivifies during his relationship with Elisa, during a particularly enjoyable and pleasant memory. He recalls being with Elisa on a fine summer's day, lying in a field, looking at the sky, and Elisa catches him out, as she often had a tendency to do, with her staggering intuition, with a very clever reflection when she reveals, "Ha ha, I am a Pisces, I'm a fish, and Oscar's a Cancerian, he's a crab. Don't you know, we're children of the sea." At the time it was a throwaway comment, but Palmer was struck by the cleverness of her insight, because it's something he hadn't never considered before. The beast taps into this memory, this part of Jonathan's living experience. Therefore, he twists it and weaponises the memory against Palmer, because at the end of the day, it's feeding off his psychic energy. Suffice to say, Pisces and Cancerians, these star signs are by far and away the most sensitive and psychic, let's say, signs in the horoscope. And it's no surprise when you meet Pisces individuals and Cancerians, they do tend to have an incredible intuition. They're very imaginative, very creative. They're water signs, which is linked to emotion. Okay, so I'm now going to talk about the magical elements that feature in the book. This is predominantly in the chapters that relate to the scout Akamu, who is on board the expedition. None more so than when he has his interactions with the witch doctor. The witch doctor helps Akamu ensnare the evil jinn, the evil malevolent spirit of Hanoi Orangi, and condemn it for all time into a small glass bottle, which Akamu, as its custodian, wears around his neck. Magic is yet another of these taboos in society. There is something I find very interesting. There's an insatiable appetite in literature for magical themes. One example would be the Harry Potter books, and that's just one example. But at the same time, it is on a rational, objective level in normal day-to-day life, it is ridiculed. And it shouldn't be ridiculed, because magic in the right frame, in the right context, is something that is very real. And I'm going to give you an example of that. We live in the material world. If we're going to talk about physics, the four pillars, tenets of physics relate to space, time, energy and matter. Well, in relation to matter, we live in a material world. It is very, very easy to take matter and convert it into something else non-tangible. For example, you could take a log of wood and you could take that solid lump of matter and burn it and turn it into non-matter via smoke, heat, gas, etc. It's easy to do that. What is not easy to do is to take non-matter and operate in reverse to that principle. That is, take something that is non-matter, like a series of ideological concepts, and turn them into something tangible. Because at one point the book only existed in my head. It's existed in my own private world as a set of concepts and ideas. So they're non-matter. What are ideas, concepts and thoughts? Even the top neurologists still argue about this. They're not convinced it's purely related to the electrical activity that occurs in a person's brain. But suffice to say, through a process, I've manifested them into 75,000 words on paper pages with something in the region of 30 images inside the book. I'll just find one. Covers, etc. So something that was a thought, no more than a thought, I turned that into something tangible, something material. In the context that I laid previously a minute or two ago, that is a magical act. And that goes for anybody who is in the creative arts. Anyone who takes a thought and turns it into something tangible has operated on a magical level. It's a manifestation. So also in the book there are spiritual themes, examples of spiritualism, and this has been inspired by my own experiences. I would say that I have been lucky in so much as I have encountered some talented psychics myself. It was about 20 years ago I became interested in the study of clairvoyance and actually studied two high-profile clairvoyants operating in the UK. One was very astrological based in her methodology, and the other was more mediumistic, and both used the tarot as a means of passing messages and information. I will say what I witnessed personally took me by surprise. On the very first occasion I met the second clairvoyant, I walked into her room and she knew virtually nothing about me. She knew my name and that was it. In the very first interchange, she proceeded via her spirit guide to deliver a message of stunning accuracy that she claimed came from a spirit person who had walked into the room with me. And suffice to say, the message was so accurate, so on point, so deeply personal. I've been scratching my head ever since. I don't know how she did it. And she couldn't even explain the process of how she did it. As she said at the time, genius doesn't know how to do anything, it just does it. And there's a real truth in that. I also experienced a very accurate message as well once in a spiritualist church. I hadn't even intended to go to the church or to take part in the service. By chance I was walking past the spiritualist church in Glasgow. I saw on the notice board that there was a service about to begin. As someone who's very inquisitive and very curious about things I don't know or understand, I found myself sitting in the congregation for the service amongst between 20 and 30 other people. Following the service, the medium honed straight on me and proceeded to deliver a message. Again, the information that she passed on was jaw-dropping, absolutely jaw-dropping. It was information even my wife wouldn't have known because I hadn't told even my wife. It was stunning and shocking. And I know that mediums in such services receive an awful lot of negative feedback. People say they're very vague. And I think that's actually reasonable because having witnessed quite a lot of them now over the years, most of them are very vague and pretty rubbish, to be honest. But I've been lucky enough to be exposed to some very accurate saying, let's just say. And that just makes me even more curious because it lights my fire. I want to know more. I want to understand. I would also go further to say that throughout my life, there has been inexplicable phenomena I've witnessed in places that I've lived, especially in my childhood home. Growing up, there was a lot of what would be termed as supernatural activity in the home. So I suppose all this would give you, the reader, a bit of an understanding as to why the supernatural themes have come to feature throughout the book. And as for the things I've experienced, this isn't the right time, it's probably not the right place, and it's not the right context. So maybe in another video, another time, on another theme, I'll find myself opening up a bit more about those things. I don't particularly consider the supernatural to be anything other than the supernormal, because nothing is ever as it seems. For example, context is everything. I truly believe that. And this is context. We are living on a moist lump of rock floating in infinity, eternal infinity. Most people tend not to think on a large scale in this way because the concept of infinity and eternity is beyond our levels of comprehension. The universe consists of 70% dark space and 25% dark matter. That's 95% of everything in the universe consists of this. Our greatest minds have been wrestling with this for the longest time. For as long as there's been modern science, they've been scratching their heads. No one has any idea, not even the first clue as to what dark space and dark matter is. But everything in the universe is made from it, and we don't know the first thing about it. And incidentally, everything in the universe includes you, and it includes I, it includes us all. We don't even have the first clue as to what we really are as we float in eternity and infinity. And I'm going to go a little bit further because I want to talk about matter again. We know empirical science, our best empirical scientific hypotheses and theories have proven beyond any doubt that we are built from atoms, but an atom itself consists of 99.9999999% empty space. If you think about that, if you took the nuclei of an atoms consist of protons, electrons and neutrons, and they have a nuclei. The nuclei is the only tangible material part of an atom. And given the percentages that I've already revealed, it's the core, the matter, the tangible part of an atom, of any atom. Bear in mind, we're built from billions of atoms. It would be like putting a peanut on the centre circle of a large football stadium, something like Wembley Stadium or Hampden Park. The peanut on the centre spot is the only part of an atom that is solid. The rest of the pitch in the stadium is empty space. So we actually are almost not even here. We're almost illusory. We consist virtually of empty space. And you might say, well, if we're empty space, and the book's empty space because everything in the material world consists of virtually empty space, why doesn't my hand just pass through the book? Or anything, for that matter. And the reason is simply this, it's because the book and me are vibrating at the same frequency. Also, it's worth mentioning, the limits of our scientific knowledge as yet also prove that energy cannot die. Something that is cannot not be. And I know that's a bit of a head-scratching statement, but ultimately we are all, what I think it's reasonable to assert through empirical science that we are energy. Energy cannot die. It can only go through a transformation and become something else. Just as a thought transforms through a process to a book. So that then leads us on to the question of death, the ultimate taboo, the thing that everybody's scared of, nobody wants to talk about, everybody's shocked when it happens to people that they love and are close to. Death is probably, according to empirical science, the greatest lie that we're ever taught. And in my psychotherapeutic practice, I dealt once, and I wrote about this in my first book, which I published in 2017, entitled Help Yourself. I had a young client, a very, very intelligent and very beautiful young woman, and she was absolutely petrified of death. And often when people come to see someone like me to get help with the issues that are spoiling their life experience, let's just say, the thing that they come to see you with is not actually the real problem. It's usually a symptom of the real problem. And as it turned out, the real problem was she was scared of the unknown, and she considered death to be the ultimate unknown. So this was a young, highly intelligent, very beautiful young woman whose life was being ruined by her own ruminations about death, the fear of the unknown. I was able to effectively help that person by revealing that death is not unknown. We all know what death is because we've all experienced death. We're just pretending that we don't know what death is, and that is the ego. On a deeply unconscious level, we know what death is because we were all dead before we were born. We are made from the same stuff, the same energy that is unfathomable, that consists the universe. We are not separate entities lost, wandering aimlessly in a vast eternal universe. We are made from the same stuff of the universe. We are the universe and the universe is us. It's far better to consider that the universe is experiencing itself as you and I. So right now, the universe is experiencing itself through me, sitting talking to myself in my consultation room, even though I'm talking vicariously to you. You were dead for billions of years before you were born. You know what it's like to be dead. And if you think back, being dead was actually so comfortable. It was so much more comfortable than being alive. Therefore, there is nothing to fear with death. We know death intimately. We've all been dead before. I think on that note, I've said all I want to say in this video. The next video is going to be the last video in the series. So thank you for joining me once again. I hope you found it interesting and I hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next time, stay awesome, look after yourself and be kind to others.